Hello and welcome to Helicopter Train Videos. In this video we're looking at dangerous student errors during pickup and setdowns. This is a clip from the Helicopter Training Podcast Dangerous Student Errors series. You can find those full episodes linked in the description or in our YouTube podcast tab.
So let's talk about some maneuvers. Let's start with the beginning, pickup and setdowns. What do you teach your CFIs about those?
Yeah, so the main concern on a pickup would be dynamic rollover. And we don't want to bring the aircraft up and yank the thing over, pivot over on a skid and trash the helicopter. So it goes back to the color coding guard. Depends on where your student is, what terrain you're working with, the winds, all those variables. Brand new student, you're going to be right there. You're going to be on the controls. A little bit further along, you're going to be more of an open guard. Always be ready to lower the collective. We know that's the antidote for dynamic rollover, right? But preload your brain. If this starts going pear-shaped, what am I going to do? I'm going to lower that collective, as well as obviously getting the cyclic in as best you can. I would also say always be close on the pedals. I have a little story about this. I told you that I tended to bring my left foot up as we get slower, and no matter what I'm at, what level I'm working with, to stop that right yaw. And some instructors, if they're comfortable with that student, they may keep their feet on the pedal, off the pedals on the floor on pickup and set down. Over the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen and heard enough stories, and I have a picture that I've sent you of on the blacktop where you can see these spiral markings on the floor where this aircraft is spun, and the skid shoes have left a reminder. So what is happening is the students can get their left and right momentarily misfiring. The nose starts to go, typically when you're setting down, for example, you're reducing the amount of torque and you have too much left pedal in. And so, the aircraft will tend to yaw left as you lower, and you need to put in some right pedal. If the student gets that backwards, and this can happen to any student, but I think students that have worked heavy equipment where maybe they've been using what we call a track steer, where they push right to run the track forward on the right side, which turns it left. Well, anyway, if the nose starts going left and they push left thinking that's solving the problem, but it speeds it up, so they think, I need more left to fix this, and then they stamp full left. It will spin round 7 times before the instructors even got their feet off the floor. And I know that for a fact because this is some of the stories I've heard and seen the evidence of in the flight school. So my advice to instructors, when you're picking up and setting down, no matter the level of student, both feet close to those pedals, you're going to get a nasty wake up one day. Otherwise, it's happened.
Yeah, I can't even imagine having my feet close to the floor doing lift up and set down. I want them to be guarding pretty close to the pedals. Now, you mentioned an accident that occurred in which a low time CFI was teaching his son, a 13-year-old boy. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I did a bit of research for the presentation I did with the FAST team to pull out some of the latest Robinson or light helicopter specific accidents involved in training where the students had made these errors. And there was an accident that happened in 2022 up in Washington. The CFI, like you said, was relatively low hours. They'd only given about 30 hours of dual instruction, and they were teaching their 13-year-old son to fly. It was his third flight, which I think that's great that he was teaching his son. Unfortunately, as the son was picking up and on grass, they came backwards and they dug the back of the skid in, spun the aircraft around and rolled over. And the NTSB was basically delayed response by the CFI, resulting in dynamic rollover. But there's a few lessons there. One is that would be a great time to use that U-shaped guard, at least where you're guarding the back, because we never want to come backwards in a hover close to the ground or when we're picking up. So that would have helped with that. I think the other big part of this, though, was operating on grass. Grass is very unforgiving for aircraft moving backwards or sideways. If you're on nice smooth blacktop, you would get away with a skid sliding a little bit. The grass will dig in. I think there was another picture I sent you where there was an R-44 and they were doing hover training above grass, and they came back and the stinger, the guard on the bottom of the tail rotor hit the ground and instantly dug into the grass and snapped off. Luckily, the tail rotor didn't hit the ground, but the effect was all the way up through the vertical stabilizer, and the tail boom had little wrinkles. So it was obviously quite an expensive mistake. So if you can, practice hovering over a nice smooth surface, blacktop or concrete or something like that.
Talk a little bit about overspeeds during liftoff. I got to say, as a low-time helicopter pilot, that's not something that I'd given a lot of thought to.
Yeah, so the I don't know. I'll just explain real quickly how the correlator works in the R-22 and the R-44, and other helicopters too that have kind of this piston helicopters that have this assistance to the pilot. The idea is that as you raise the collective, you're going to increase the amount of drag in the rotor system as the blades take more bite of the air. So as the angle of attack increases or the pitch angle increases, the correlator correlates the collective position with opening the throttle to ballpark figure maintain RPM somewhat where it should be. The trouble is these correlators are not perfect. They don't work through the entire range from collective flat down all the way up to pickup. So if you take the R-22, which also has, or an R-44, which also has an electronic governor, if you turn that governor off or it malfunctioned and you are flying what we call manually manipulating the throttle, you would raise, you're on the ground right now, flat pitch, the engine's running, we're already at 100%. You would raise the collective and the correlator would over-correlate, and it would bring the engine and rotor up into the red zone, overspeed, damage to the engine and rotor. So a pilot that was used to flying manually would be rolling the throttle down a little bit. And if your listeners fly the R-22 or the R-44, next time you pick up, just feel and focus, keep it safe, eyes outside, but focus on what the throttle is doing. The governor is backing the throttle off a little bit as you raise. So if your student is stressed and your instructor doesn't look down at their hand grip and make sure they don't have that death grip, that they have that nice loose grip, if they have a stressed death grip on the throttle, it will stop that governor backing off the throttle. And it will cause an overspeed. They'll come up, and up will come the engine and rotor. And as the instructor, if you're just got your left hand on the throttle, you won't feel them roll up. They're not rolling up. It's the correlator that's doing it. They're not allowing the governor to roll down. So a couple of things that Robinson talk about is they have a safety nurse 36, which is called Overspeeds during liftoff. They talk about making sure that the governor is on. Some schools will teach that while you've got the RPMs down, turn the governor off, so there's no way that it will go up to the 80% and go into the governed range. So they say, turn the governor off while you're on the ground, low RPM. That's fine. But if you do that, you've got to make sure that you turn that governor back on before you roll above 80 or go up to 100, because it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what you're doing with the grip there. If you turn the governor off, it won't back off and you'll raise up. But the other thing they talk about is inexperienced pilots most likely to be nervous or distracted, particularly susceptible to gripping too firmly during liftoff, and it'll put the engine above 120%. It'll put it off the scale. It'll destroy the engine and the transmission, the rotor head, the blades. That's an really expensive mistake. So don't do that.
It's so funny, as you were talking about some of the nuances and the subtleties of this, I'm reminded of something I had seen recently posted on Reddit, where a woman had said, "My husband thinks that he could land a helicopter without flying lessons." And I was thinking, these people truly don't understand how complex these things are.
Well, he might be able to land it. It just might not be flyable again once he's done it. So.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's certainly always our goal. In addition to walking away, we'd like to be able to use the aircraft again.
Yeah, it's non-disposable aircraft. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, let's talk about slope.
This clip was just a small taste of the 3-part Dangerous Student Errors series on the Helicopter Training podcast. In that series, we break down key instructor techniques like guarding and blocking controls, ghosting maneuvers, when to take the controls, and how to respond when a student freezes up. We then apply those concepts across real training scenarios, including slopes, hover work, running landings, quick stops, vortex ring state, auto rotations, simulated engine failures, off-airport operations, and more. We also review real maneuver-specific accidents and what we can learn from them as instructors and as students. You can find the full episodes right here on this YouTube channel under the podcast tab, or search for Helicopter Training Podcast on your favorite podcast player. And if you're interested in learning to fly helicopters, you can start learning right now on Helicopter Training Video's YouTube channel, with video playlists covering things like ground school subjects, flight maneuvers, as well as following along with a student on every training flight from day one all the way through to check ride. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to get all the latest videos and help support this channel. And finally, for more information, including articles, quizzes, and resources, and how to support this volunteer project, please check out our website, helicoptertrainingvideos.com. Thanks for watching. Fly safe.